I'm sat out in the garden here in my own space at North Lodge. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of an autumn update. The season here has most definitely changed. Now, many of you may not have known here or noticed here on YouTube, but I've been away. I've had a nice long holiday. I've been off to Thailand, returned around 10 days ago. I am refreshed, revitalized, and ready to go. My current position has changed quite greatly. I no longer work as a gardener anywhere. My full time job now is here in my garden and bringing you content across Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Threads. On the subscription based service and obviously on a free content as well. So, lots and lots going on for me. The garden, unfortunately, has suffered as a result of my schedule over the last 3 months. I've been incredibly busy, as I'm sure a lot of you will relate to. Sometimes life just gets in the way. And as I wrapped up one thing that I was doing, one thing, there's obviously not a huge amount of time. Something had to unfortunately suffer, and the garden did suffer. This morning, we're going to have a little bit of a walk around the garden here at North Lodge, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. One or two problem areas to talk to you about, but I wanted to make sure that you know that it's okay that if your garden doesn't quite look like you wanted it to, that it's okay. The gardener will forgive you. You will catch up. It's just entering now its quiet time here in the UK. First signs of autumn are really starting to show. The first leaves on the trees, as you can see from the hazel tree behind me, are starting to slowly change. If I turn the camera around very quickly, you'll see on the job list today, the pumpkins, we went and picked those yesterday. And the first list on the job for me to do today is to clear the porch. The porch at this time of year, let's go and have a look at it. The porch at this time of year contains my succulent collection. There are succulents everywhere. There are nice algarves and an aeonium just over there. But there are some tender plants here that I normally display here on the porch that come out for the summer months. Some again, some agaves, lots of Semponians and bits and pieces. A really, really nice Mexican giant. These things now need to move into the greenhouse for protection for the winter. So the next thing up on the list is to clear these plants off, give this a thoroughly good brush down. Also, a big bucket of apples over the next couple of days. These are the apples that I've harvested from the garden over the last few days. They need to be washed and processed. I'm going to be making a a salted caramel apple crumble pie, which is really, really very tasty. Bulbs, obviously from Farmer Gracie, those arrived just a couple of days ago, but the tender plants need to move in now into the greenhouse, and the pumpkins that I was sat next to just a second ago need to make their way into the greenhouse. But the main reason I wanted to join you live today, one is to talk you through the garden. I'm going to have a quick walk around in a moment. If any of you got any questions, don't hesitate to drop me a comment below. Obviously, I'll post this to my grid and you can watch this back at any time. But I also need to start planning ahead for next season. Now, many of you that follow along will realize that this year has been for me a little bit of an overachieving year, I must admit. Normally, I was this year I was scheduled to do about 37 to 40 personal rose reviews. I was scheduled to do about 10 peony reviews. Didn't do 10 peony reviews. I did 17. I then added 30 companion planting videos to the schedule, and instead of doing the 37 to 40 rose reviews, I actually did 81. There was a lot, an awful lot, a huge amount of content created for me over the months of June, July, and August. It went on and on and on. As a result, I'm in a very blessed position. There are roses absolutely everywhere, which are in dire need of a home. Now, I don't have a never ending garden. I don't have a never ending amounts of space here in the garden. So I need to make some harsh decisions about what I'm going to be keeping and what I'm going to be giving away, donating, or moving on to other places. I need to really walk around the garden. So I'm going to do that with you in a moment. I'm going to do that with you in a moment and just show you one or two things. So I'm just going to say hi to the people that are joining me. Hello, joining me from Pennsylvania. It's lovely to have you along. Really, really nice. Thank you very much for dropping me a comment. So yeah, what we're going to be doing is we're going to walk around the garden very quickly. I'm going to show you the problem areas. I'm going to show it to you raw because there's been a lot of building work going on here. As I plan for my next stage of my career, what we've had to do is build me a studio. So we've taken our garage and we've turned that into a recording studio for me because I am really, really very, very much I'm either recording podcasts. The first episode of this season 3 of the podcast goes live tomorrow. That's Monday morning. It goes live at 6 a.m. here in the UK. Um, so yes, that is going live on Monday, and then lots and lots of more episodes of the podcast to come. Then I've got loads and loads to film for you, so I really do need somewhere to go. So yeah, we built me a recording studio that was in the garage. That is now my recording studio, but that's taken a little bit longer than we anticipated. So there's stuff everywhere. But let's have a quick walk around the garden, and we'll show you now. So right, wait a minute. There's got a question coming up. Thank you for your cutting. Okay, I'm not entirely sure what your question is, so do drop me what your question is below if you have a particular question, and I'm going to talk you through it. I'll keep an eye on those comment section as we move about. So let's turn the camera around. You don't want to see me anymore. Patio still looking really, really lovely. It's not going to be long before here in the UK I have to give my tree ferns some winter protection. As you know, if you followed along closely, my tree fern, my large one, which I call Fern Britain, she has had a little bit of a bumpy ride this year. She unfurled a really, really beautiful crop of fronds at the beginning of the season after carrying leaves pretty much through the entire winter last year. Unfortunately, the squirrel then took a liking to her. I don't know why. The grey squirrel took a real good liking to her. Jumping from our weeping willow tree, it was jumping onto the top of the tree fern and eating the fronds. I'm assuming they're packed full of starch and sugar and very, very sweet and tasty, and I lost almost a dozen tree fronds off of her this year. The wind then came, and I lost about another five or six. So it's really, really struggled to pull it back this year, but it will recover. Items like Salvia amstrad looking really good. Look at that, absolutely beautiful. A real hero of the autumn garden at this time of year. Now, I'm showing this particular part of the garden now because this was one of the reasons, one of the areas I've actually tidied. I got out here for about an hour and a half just a couple of days ago, and you can see I cleared from this peony. This is peony coral charm already dying down for the winter now. And I cleared all the way along here till you can see my kneeling pads just there. And that's where I stopped. I got a cubic meter of rubbish out of that area. Then I had to go off, obviously, to the dump and get rid of it. But yeah, anyway, so lots of areas of the garden looking really untidy, but that area of the garden is looking really quite nice. The lavender hedge around the top of the low wall, that's making really, really good ground. Had a fire out last night. That was really nice to sit out with a fireball. You can see, if I go up to this border here, there are large perennial weeds about really nice, big, horrible things like that dock and lots of ground elder creeping in because I've simply been too busy to do anything else while we've been sort of shifting stuff about. The pond still looking absolutely lovely. We were visited by the heron about 8 weeks ago, and we did lose a couple of koi. They were a bit shy. The goldfish you can see, but the koi are getting really, really quite large. They might come up because I'm close by. Each now measuring sort of about a foot across. The olives, I've got two olives, as you're aware, looking really splendid as well. The pond finally has its electrical hookup, which is finally done. It's taken ages to get done. Electrician finished that off last week. And I've got some olives. You can see juvenile olives on my olive tree. They're probably not going to get to be ripened, but it's very, very nice to see. This one is going to need a little bit of work over in the spring. It's getting a little bit tall and reaching a little bit too high off the top of here now. So I'm going to reduce that down. And one of the problem areas we've got, and I know this sounds a strange thing to say, is now what to do with the driveway. You can see the drive here at North Lodge is quite substantial. If I stand right back, you'll see it's really, really is quite large. Now, I'm going to talk to you about this heap of mess in a minute. The driveway is really quite large. Now, normally, before I stopped work, my wagon, my commercial wagon would have been parked alongside the house there, but we no longer have that. That's gone. Sold that. So we've now got this enormous space. And now space in the garden is at an absolute premium. I'm kind of looking at this space thinking, well, we don't need all of this drive space because the drive used to come up to the garage, which we haven't been able to use for about, well, we couldn't use it when we moved into the house. The garage is just here, which has obviously been repurposed. But this entire space now completely and utterly useless. I mean, it's very, very lavish for a path to be walking about the garden. So I'm trying to think of what to do with this that makes sense. As you're aware, this is the winter garden behind here. This is all of the roses that were reviewed during 2024, went into this space here. These are all of the roses that were for 2024. Absolutely everything that I wanted to keep. One or two dotted in here, like wedding piano, which is this one here. which has been reviewed in 2025. But all of the roses here were reviewed during 2024. And these are all the ones that I wanted to keep. So you can see some beautiful roses and some lovely colour still showing from Peterbilt's roses. This one, a really, really lovely one. Now my brain's gone dead. I can't remember that one. That one, I believe, is. Ooh, can't remember. I know this one over here is Loyal Companion. Look at that. Looking really, really lovely. And some of you will remember as well these two large U pyramids that used to be down at the side of the cottage. They used to stand just in front of the dining room windows, just over here. Really nice to finally get rid of those and have the barrels in the front of the cottage a little more manageable. So yeah, some really nice colour still dotting about. We have some nice roses. Oxford Physics, again from Peterbilt's. You can see, look at the bloom on that one. Just absolutely beautiful. Look at it. Look at the foliage on this one. The Peterbilt's roses I've been adding to the collection this year. I've been absolutely astonished, not only by the vigour, the health, but also the quality of the foliage as well. Look at that. I mean, it's just spotless at this time of year, which is really, really nice. Roses like Skylark from David Austin, Comet to Champagne over the back there, Fighting Tamareri, lovely big bloom on that one. Susan Ellis Williams, the little white one here, still putting on some flowers. But Loyal Companion, really the star of the show here, this one from Peterbilt's, a really, really nice one. Anyway, so this is the winter garden. You can see that this is not looking too bad. A nice bit of colour through here, a little bit of bindweed and a few little annual weeds, one or two stinger nettles, but not looking too bad at all. And then it gets, unfortunately, a little bit messy. I love the view of the cottage from way back here. I've got some rubbish to get rid of, and yes, there's some stuff strewn about. Now, I on FaceBay, as a way of heating my new recording studio, on FaceBay, local FaceBay, I bought a little reused wood burner that was no longer needed by the person that was selling for, and I bought all the flumes to go with that. Now the flumes don't work. Absolutely bloody typical. They are not suitable for what we needed to do, so we've had to buy new flumes. So all of those need to be picked up by the scrap person or taken to the dump. So that's that pile of rubbish just down there. Got two large gas cylinders I also need to find a home for, and then some bits and pieces from the log burner as well. So down here is a heat screen, which I don't need, a fireplace, which I don't need. Basically, I picked up absolutely everybody. Right, so let's have a quick look. Okay, right. Person asking about spacing for companion plants. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually create a whole video on that because we're going to go up to what used to be the wildflower meadow in a minute, and I'm going to talk you through the process of what we're going to do over there. And I'm going to make a series of videos of how I'm going to plan out that space. But I wanted to talk to you more about the areas that I'm going to actually sort of address because, like I say, if I go back down to the cottage now, we're going to be all over the place today. But still, it's one of those going to be one of those things. You can see I've got a big bank of roses down here. All of these are from Peterbilt's. Now, some of these I'm going, well, actually, all but two roses here that I'm going to keep. And I'm going to give two very, very specially to a dear friend of ours who lost her father not long ago, about 3 months ago. And I'm going to be giving her one of these, which is my dad. So she's going to be having that one as a memorial rose for her father. But and anyway, all of these roses need to find a home as well. And I've got a hydrangea Annabelle, which I need to find a home for in the garden as well. The angel's trumpet is strewn out on the drive for good reason because I need to make sure that that goes into the greenhouse alongside these succulents that we were talking about just a second ago. Right, so let's have a look at what else we've got to find a home for. So there are loads of roses absolutely everywhere. Again, I've got another tray of roses up here. About how many have we got? We've got two, four, six. We've got 7 roses in that tray alone, which I need to find a home for. Some of them, unfortunately, haven't made flowering. This one, can't remember the name of that one. Where is it? There we go. Notre Dame de Cassis. That one, it didn't make flowering early enough for me to be able to review that one this year. That one will be tallied over till next year, as well as one or two other ones in this tray. Think it also contains, yeah, Special Day didn't get done. That will be done next year as well. So I do need to find a home for all of those roses. I've then got more roses here. Beautiful Ashton Wold from Peterbilt's, just allowing to set hip. I've got another 3 or 4 roses in that one. Then all of this year's companion plants, they're going to be making their way up into what used to be the wildflower meadow. I'm going to show you all of the warts and all now. I've got another tray of roses just down here. I've got a tray of roses and companion plants over there. I've then got the trial bed. Now, this is where things started to get a little bit out of hand for 2025. These were the roses that went into the ground this time last year for 2025 review. There was only what, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 in that bed, and then 15, 16, 17, 18 down the side. And then things started getting a little bit out of hand. So I have all of these roses here to find a home for. I'm not going to be keeping all of these. Some of these are actually going to be donated to a good friend of mine who's joining me on the podcast in a week or two's time. And they're going down to Bristol. I've got a tray of peonies here. Some have been reviewed, some haven't. So I've got to find homes for those. I've then got 3 climbing roses here, only 2 of which made flowering. Snow goose made flowering, which I really, really want to keep. That one is going in the bin. That's completely pointless. And then this one is the shepherdess from David Austin Roses. You can see it got really quite large, put out loads and loads and loads of growth, but actually failed to flower. So I need to keep that one for next year. And what I've fully reviewed this year is the Albrighton Rambler from David Austin Roses. You can see that's been in that container now. This is coming on for it's now at the end of its 24 month. That one is going to have to leave. I need that bed back. So that one has to find a location in the garden as well. The dahlias, you can see, have got completely and utterly out of hand. They have got absolutely enormous. And because I wasn't here for nearly 3 weeks, they didn't get picked. The builder's obviously been doing work on top of the garage roof. We had to have a brand new roof and a skylight put into that so I could work in there. The garage roof was leaking, so he's been working here, so excuse the mess. And then Dahlia imperialis, you can see standing just about here. It's absolutely enormous. It's probably, haven't measured it this year, probably standing something in the region of about 12 foot high. Not as big as it has been in other years, but didn't have as much water this year as it would normally have. One, I didn't water it as intently, and secondly, it was just so big, so very, very harshly dry here in the UK. So that one is not looking like it's going to flower before we get a frost, which is very, very annoying. I keep saying I'm going to dig it up, and every time I try and dig it up, it's too big to cope with. So dahlia wise, I say you can see they've got really, really out of hand. And this is again, I'm a bit sorry. Don't judge me, all right? I'm as bad as all of you. I can't help myself when it comes to plants, and I've got plants absolutely everywhere. Right, so I've got roses here in a tray, which I need to find a home for. I've got roses here. I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. There's 10 roses there and about 3 or 4 peonies. There's roses and peonies over here. Look at that one. That one has hanky panky that was fully reviewed this year, still beautifully in flower. There is then a bed buried behind that of 2. There's 5 roses in there that need to find a home for. That one needs to come out of there. And then I've got all of these here as well. These are my vegetable beds, which I end up giving over to roses for review season. So things like whiter shade of pale. This one is another one. This one is called Remember Me. That one is also being gifted to my dear friend who lost her father this year. So she's going to have that one for her dad. And then over there as well, that's more roses. They've got to come out. And then round the back of the greenhouse, basically, what I'm trying to do, we're just going to stop and we're going to take a moment to enjoy great Hercules. I mean, look at him. He's absolutely fabulous. I mean, I really should pick at it and take it into the house. But a really, really lovely dinner plate daily. Look at the size of that. Beautiful and all mixed up. I'll turn the camera around so you can see, but look at this jumbled mess. Really, really big mass of flowers. I've been very bad at picking my dahlias this year. I was also so busy, and this is where I really want to make to say that it's okay. And I feel really bad and I feel a bit exposed sharing this with you, but the garden is an absolute mess. Down here on the floor, I was so busy during May, June because of the amount of roses that I was processing for review. Just to let you know, a rose review takes me not only a year to plan, to have the plant a year either in the ground or in a pot, which I need to look after and maintain and actually work, but it takes me around 7 or 8 hours to put a review together. It might only take me 7 or 8 minutes to film it in one take because I never edit anything. Everything's always done in one complete sweep from start to finish. There's never any breaks. There's never any editing in my media. But the data harvesting then goes into, I like to have about 100 pictures and 100 video clips of each rose. That takes about 7 or 8 hours to process. So very, very busy in May, June, and July and August, which means like the peonies that are down here, I've got a bank of peonies down here. These were the peonies that I was reviewing for 2024 and 2025. There was also, I just left a couple of foxgloves dotted about, which you can see. I now have simply millions and millions and millions of foxgloves. They are absolutely everywhere. Some of these peonies need to stay. Some of these peonies need to go. For instance, this one here is scrumdiddlyumptious. This one failed to flower. This is a semi-woody peony, which I'm going to be reviewing next year. So that one will be staying. Some of these need to go, but some of these need to go. And then I'll need to get this area back. And again, as we said, there's roses around here. The soft fruit along the side. I picked the apples. The strawberries need some work. Obviously, I need to wait for all of the raspberries and the blackberry currants and stuff to tie down for the winter. But a very, very messy through here. Hello, spider. Look, hi, garden spider, doing your job. And then I've got more roses here. They need to find a home. So basically, I got, in layman's terms, a huge amount of roses to find homes for. So I've been walking around the garden thinking about where I can squeeze them, and I'm going to sort of stop here. Right. So this was the garage, and while I was working as a full-time gardener, pretty much full of, well, rubbish. Loads and loads of stuff that I simply didn't need. Loads of bits of broken equipment, storage of equipment I didn't necessarily need to keep. I don't need that anymore. I just need my domestic equipment to keep to work here in the garden. And we've got a little patio at the top here. This used to house our hot tub. We used to have a very, very lavish. We had a hot tub until the heating crisis arrived here in the UK, and electricity and gas prices went up and up and up, and it was no longer efficient to use this as a hot tub. The hot tub went. There's an old patio table and chairs up here, but I want to get rid of that as well because I want to be able to use this area for filming. And I've got a small area along here, which I can put some plants in. So I might get maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 roses in there. So there's 3 out of nearly 80 that I need to find a home for. Underneath the willow tree, it's not going to be the perfect spot, realistically. It's quite deep shade, but obviously I've got the knowledge to back this up. So I'm going to go back through the roses that I've had reviewed this year and see whether any of are suitable for growing in shade. And I've got an area down underneath the willow tree. You can see here, normally we just let this dark patch go to wildflowers, and it normally starts at the beginning of the year. We get a nice display of spring bulbs, which I've planted underneath the willow tree. Things like crocus, a few little daffodils, and some alliums and stuff. But this area really doesn't do a great deal. So I wondered whether I might get 5 or 6 roses around the bottom of the willow tree as well. Now, over behind the big pile of rubbish over there, can you see that metal piece of corrugated over there? I've got about 1.5 tons of random walling stone left. Obviously, when I built the wall around the patio here, this took us months and months to build. But when I built this wall with my husband Mark, we had 10 tons of random walling stone delivered in one load, and I've got probably about 1.5 tons. Probably, you can probably see the tips of it over there, buried underneath the hazel tree. I've got about 1.5 tons of random walling stone. You can see that we've randomly put quite a lot around the winter garden. I can collect some of that up as well because that doesn't all need to be there. But I could actually build myself a stone edge around the base of the willow tree here, and I could probably house another 5 or 6 roses under there. Now, I'm quite confident with my aspects here. If I turn the camera around, directly behind me is due west. This area of the lawn that I'm stood on, I might be in deep shade above my head with the willow tree, but this area of the lawn, specifically this bit over here, gets absolutely baked. And I'll turn the camera around so you can see the damage that was done during the summer. It's only just really starting to recover because this area was completely baked brown by the sun. It gets so hot up here. So the area under the willow tree does actually get quite an awful lot of an awful lot of sun. So they might draw a little bit towards the southeast, southwest, but I will get away with planting some roses underneath there. I've also got a little area just here. Now, we started off this video with me telling you that this area was relatively clear. Again, you'll have to excuse certain parts of the garden. They don't really make a huge amount of sense. The sundial was actually plonked there because it used to be down there. And it used to be down there next to the pond before the pond had to move. The pond had to go very high into the garage before we did the extension. You can see there's been a series of movements that have caused a lot of stuff to be sort of unhoused and sort of moved into places that don't necessarily do. So we're in that position where we're really starting to finish off things. When we first bought the house, nearly 9 years ago, it had a horrible 90s lean-to conservatory on the back of it. just over 5 years ago, we added this beautiful vaulted ceiling extension, which I can show you at another time. But this entire extension was added, lovely 16-foot high vaulted ceiling that makes up our lounge. And yeah, anyway, that obviously advanced its way out. There was 50 tons of soil that had to be removed from the sunken patio to get that area in. So lots of things got strewn about, including the sundial. The sundial needs to go somewhere else. So I think that will go up into the what is used to be the wildflower meadow. And I've got an area here that doesn't really make sense. This area is really difficult to mow with a lawnmower. So I come along here with a mower. I've got a funny double back bit here and then a funny double back bit here, which with the mower is really, really difficult. So what I think I might do is I might come off of this stone edging here, give myself an outward facing scallop, and I'm probably going to gain about 2 feet in depth here. And I'll see a little bit over there. So I could probably get another couple of peonies in here and maybe another 3 roses. So as long as they're fairly small and they don't get in the way of me getting up to water the tree ferns, because I have to get up on the little low wall every day to water those. I probably can get another 2 peonies in here, maybe a couple of companion plants, and probably another 2 or 3 roses. So that's another little area I've got just there. Now, the garden, I say, is looking a little bit of a mess. I mean, it's looking exactly as it should do, but there is an awful lot of weed about. There's an awful lot of bindweed that I just simply didn't get to pulling out. You can see if I pull this, look, this is all bindweed. I just simply didn't get to it. And I beat myself up over it, but there's nothing I can do. Season is done. I just have to weed it out for next year and be much more disciplined. But again, other things like this one is Salvia Amstrad black and blue. That one is really, really lovely. Gonna have to be giving that some winter protection soon. But again, you can see also sort of Daphne odora. And again, things like that. I mean, how has that survived? That is a small juvenile tree surviving in plain sight, but simply just didn't get around to doing anything with it. So the garden looking, I don't know, I don't know whether it's looking nice or not, but I'm working on another large piece of media for you to bring you just before Christmas of a brand new Best for Hips collection. So I'm leaving a lot of the roses. This one, the Lark Ascending from David Austin Roses. I'm going to be bringing you a really big piece of media on hips. I might as well tell you. I can tell you. I'm going to structure it as a advent calendar. Going to be launched on the 1st of December. I'm going to be 25 roses with a very long video at the end. So it'll be a best of collection, then followed by 25 individual videos showcasing each particular rose. So that's a really big bank of media that I'm going to be bringing you. Okay, right. I'm just going to quickly catch up on some comments here. Okay, so someone's saying Erica's saying that she added dahlias to to a rose garden this year for the first time. So yes, I mean I absolutely love. I've got dahlias dotted around. Actually, I've got one just in front of me and a large one just off to my right as well. So yeah, a really really big fan of the dahlias. So yes, and someone's saying that less grass, less mowing. Yeah, I mean we don't have a lot of lawn at all. You can see it's not a massive amount of lawn in the first place. Most of my garden is plants, which is how I'm managing to pack in quite so many plants because they are literally everywhere. But I want to turn the camera around very quickly and show you a real star of the winter garden, well, as the autumn garden. You can see LD Braithwaite from David Austin Roses pumping out blooms, that beautiful dark, rich crimson red there. Right, as we move around, as you can see, the grass needs a lot of remedial work. It really did really struggle. Roald Dahl in hip, oh, in hip and in bloom at the same time from David Austin Roses. Really nice. I've got to get round to pruning my enormous topiary as well. Look at the state of that. I only did that before I went on holiday. Been done about a month ago. It's looking all really ragged. That should be a lovely pyramid. That should be a cone. But again, and you can see very, very disgracefully bindweed absolutely everywhere, and some lovely autumn colour coming on one or two pieces as well. Burning bush. This spindle. This is a euonymus getting a little bit out of hand. I must admit, I really do need to attack that one. It is getting really, really rather large, but I do need to do a little bit of pruning with that one. The picket fence now that used to be up dividing the wildflower meadow is down. This area here is going to be a new nature pond. And you can see the area just under the fence there is how the badger is getting into the garden, which is really nice to see. But he's doing quite a lot of damage in quite a lot of areas. Not there's nothing that we can actually do about it, but yeah, the badger is coming underneath the fence there from the embankment behind. You can hear the road off to my right. But this area is going to be a nature pond, and I've got the liner for that. I just need to get around to digging it. And I also need to get round to ordering some really large containers because one of the other ideas that I've got is I'm going to be buying some water troughs, some cattle water troughs to house a few of more roses in other places. So that area that we about by the top patio, by my new studio, that is probably going to have a water trough along the side of it, and also the side of the stable, just where that big pile of material. uh, yes, I can show you the King's Rose, but I'm not very impressed with it. It's not going to get a very good review from myself next year if it doesn't buck up its ideas. It's horrible, drawn, spindly, gangly thing. Not very impressed with it at all. I don't know what on earth is going on with the David Austin breeding program at the moment, but several really bad roses coming from them at the moment. Anyway, yeah, but we can go down and I'll go down and show you that one in a minute. As regards to dahlias, I don't lift my dahlias. I leave them in the ground. Sorry, just answering another question here. I actually leave mine in the ground over winter. I simply mulch over them. I normally just get a couple of tons of woodland mulch, just put a large molehill of mulch over the top of them. That's here in the UK is more than enough to keep them protected down to about -7 to -10. Any temperatures below that, and I'm probably starting to lose stuff, but they do overwinter quite nicely in the ground here at that kind of temperature. About 8 inches of mulch over the top of them to a circular dimension of about 60 centimeters. And then I just rake that out in the spring to incorporate into the main part of the mulch. There are loads and loads of there's loads and loads of information on that. It's series one and series two of the podcast, incidentally, if you wanted to have a read of that. Do listen to the episode of the podcast about dahlias. I think it's called Dahlias and Bananas, oh my, if I remember quite rightly. Anyway, the podcast is available here on YouTube for you to listen to as well. But there's some important information about how tall you leave the stems on there. Make sure you leave the stems on your dahlias nice and long if you're planning to leave them in the ground. They have tubular structures. Actually, I've got a dahlia here, I'll show you. Right, you can see here that the dahlia is broken into structures. Where the leaf has pairs of leaves, there will be a small break in the stem, and this will allow water down and it will stop here. So if you leave the stems nice and long, water doesn't get funneled down into the ground and actually rot the tuber off. So make sure you leave the stems normally leave them about 12 to 14 inch long above ground. So it just gives them a little bit more protection and doesn't funnel the water down into them. Right. So back to the area we were talking about quickly. So this was what the wildflower meadow had a picket fence along here. That's been removed. And the video that I did on spraying, that one was quite actually well received, which was quite nice. I was a bit nervous about bringing you this. Obviously, this area was full of plants and we don't want them coming back up again. I'm going to seal this under a load of cardboard. Actually, the poor old rickety summer house there, which is going to stay there for a while at the moment, is absolutely packed to the gunnels full of cardboard. Actually, let's open it and show you because it's quite funny. I've been keeping cardboard for a very, very long time. The door, look all that cardboard in there. There's piles and piles and piles of it. Anyway, loads and loads of cardboard in there, which I'm going to be using to seal the soil under here. So this area, as we said, was going to be a nature pond, a little patio or hard standing here, maybe to put a chair or something, but a little nature pond in there. That badger really is digging out quite a lot of space underneath there. Right, and then this area is the one I'm going to be working on over the winter. So I'm hoping this area is going to take an awful lot of the roses I was talking to you about. It's not going to take all of them. I'm not going to manage to get all of them in here. Need to work out the square footage and do a little bit of a plan. But as a general rule, I don't really draw things, but I'm going to make myself do this to tour you through the process. So yes, I will be doing that for you. And I need to make the most of the fences up here as well. So there's a rose here which is really struggling. I can't remember even what that one is. That one was supposed to be reviewed, I think, in 2022, and it's still not really doing much. But I've got one fence panel there that's empty, one fence panel there, and another one again. So I've got about another 4 or 5 climbing roses that I can get up here. And I also plan to, when I have to prune the willow tree, which is off in the distance over there. See, the garden is quite large. When I prune the willow tree after it's dropped all of its leaves, I will actually be using all of the stems. A couple of years ago, I wove hazel hurdles down the side of the path here. And we need to keep the path because basically our septic tanks are up here. I need to allow access for those to be pumped about once a year. But I did weave hurdles down the side of the path a couple of years ago with the hazel. Those have now been removed. But I have this idea in my head about making some snake hurdles in the ground, sort of different heights. So maybe starting off about 2 foot high and maybe narrowing down to about 6 inches, or maybe the other way, 6 inches at this end, and then maybe 2 foot to sort of create these groins moving about this area to make it almost like a serpent. Anyway, that's the idea in my head. Whether I'll get round to doing it, I don't know. Round on the fence over here. So you can see some lovely hips on the generous gardener, and some even more beautiful rose hips. This one is one of the best ones for producing hips. An old rambling rose. This one is Bobby James producing some really, really lovely ones. You can see there. They really are very, very pretty indeed. So yeah, this area needs a huge amount of work, and I'm going to be doing an awful lot of work up here and spacing this out for you. There's a lot of bulbs underneath here, which I really want to make sure they keep coming up. But I need to get this a good rake over, and I need to get onto this. So a lot of those roses we spoke about and what I was Earth I was going to do about it are going to go into here, along with that area underneath the willow tree, the area in front of the workshop, or that was now the studio, and also the area next to that sundial. The sundial will probably come up here along with. I've got a beautiful old stone table. I'll take you down and show you. These need to go, which is a real shame. They used to be either side of the gate, and they're driving Mark nuts. And I said I would remove them. They are actually. I'll show you. They're in chimney pots, and they've got a little bit out of hand. You can see they're in old chimney pots. So they've obviously escaped into the ground, but they're far, far too big. And they give Mark hives. So every time he walks up into this area, unfortunately, bless him, he comes up in hives. You can see the mole is making its presence incredibly well known. Look at the state of that. One, two, three, four molehills. Four molehills in less than a square meter. So thank you very much, Mr. Mole, for that. Yeah, you can see that. I say the garden, lots of bits of colour, but it's looking a little bit on the messy side. We'll go down and quickly see whether Octopus Sparkle. I want to see whether it's got any flowers. Oh, it has. Look how fun this one is. This is a new dahlia that I've been working with this year. This one is called Octopus Sparkle. I kept this one in a container. This one is absolutely glorious. Anyway, let's go back along this way. I wanted to show you the garden today. Say it's a real, real mess. And loads of bindweed and loads of stuff everywhere that is not supposed to be here. Persicaria, you can see still looking really, really beautiful, but I'm going to continue to work my way through. I'm not cutting down the herbaceous perennials just yet. All I'm doing is clearing the bindweed and clearing the weeds. This area through here, it's loads and loads of cell-soded geum, which sounds like a great idea when it first comes up, but it just takes over. So awful lot of this was removed because it just gets stuck everywhere. And we'll go back round onto the patio. Back to the pumpkins, which are today's task to get that done. And I'm going to now that I'm not working anymore, have plenty more time to get onto these things. I've got some wonderful guests on the podcast, incidentally. If you've watched this lot so far, thank you very much. But some wonderful, 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 and very exciting guests to bring you. First episode of the brand new series 3 of the podcast launches tomorrow on the menopause and perimenopause, and also the nutrition and how to keep your health healthy during the menopause. A beautiful friend of mine called Jenny joined me a few weeks ago. Actually, we sat here on the table and had lunch afterwards. It was beautifully hot. But Jen Flourish Nutrition on Instagram joined me for the first episode of the podcast, which will be out for you tomorrow. Right. Any more comments that I need to mention for you, so? Okay, so quickly a question about a maple tree. I would strongly advise you, wherever possible, not to prune a maple. If we're talking about a maple, as in an acer, a bright-leafed or cut-leafed acer, I would advise not actually to prune those just yet. They're really, really temperamental. You always want to prune them when the sap is just about rising. So at the moment, if you're growing in a similar growing zone to us, the sap is dropping. And what you want to do is you want to avoid. I'm going to do a piece of media about this on roses today, so look out for that. But what you want to do is avoid pruning while the sap is dropping, because what that means is the sap will continue to drop. It will draw air into the cuts that you make, and it will create airlocks, and then you'll end up with dieback. So you may cut to a certain point, but you actually may die back to a position much, much lower down in the plant that you probably, for instance, wanted to. So do make sure that you don't do any pruning on decorative acers or maples just at the moment. Wait until the spring. So we're probably talking about late February, very, very beginning of early March, just as the sap starts to rise, those buds start to swell. That's your opportunity to actually do a little bit of light pruning, and only really on acers remove the growth that you really, really must do. If you need to move much growth, you are really quite dangerous position with a lot of acers. They do, unfortunately, tend to die back. So do proceed with caution. If you want to, Beatrice, do send me a picture over on Instagram and I'll have a look at it for you because I know you follow along there as well. So you can always send me a picture. And I know you're growing in a very, very cold place as well. So we need to proceed with utmost caution with that one. Okay. Okay, what's the name of my podcast? It is simply same as everything else. It's the Garden of Ben podcast. I say it's available for you to listen to on. If you go to my homepage here on YouTube and scroll across to the right, there's a toolbar underneath the main bits at the top of the page. Scroll across to the right, you'll go across to memberships. You can subscribe should you want to, and you all will also find podcasts there. Over 30 episodes for you to listen to there, but also streams on Apple, Amazon, and Spotify. Available on all of them. So if you listen on Spotify, please do have a listen on there. But yeah, first episode of the podcast, the Garden of Ben podcast, back with you tomorrow. Anyway, thank you very much for everybody who's joined me today to walk around my very, very untidy autumnal garden. I will be back with you with plenty of media soon. If you have any queries or questions, don't hesitate to drop me a comment below. I'll see you all again very soon. Take good care now. Bye bye.